I'm going to talk a little bit about the role of design at the heart of policy making. We've been running some experiments over the last few years, and we've worked, and I've had the privilege to work with a lot of fantastic designers. And yes, we've got two of them with me today, Luke Pearson and Deborah Jabecco. What we're going to explore, but I'm waiting for my presentation to come up. There we are. What we're going to explore is how design can nudge social behaviour, but also how simultaneously it can create that boost in the economy. We're calling that a shove. Before I explain a couple of our projects, I thought maybe just 30 seconds on myself. So that's me, and that's my mum, who's a fashion designer, my wife, who's a landscape architect, my two little boys, who are now quite grown up, me with the dog, Diesel. I've worked 25 years in the creative industries, 7 of them running the design council. We have lots of design associates we work with, 500 companies a year, and then we run these innovation programs in areas like security, communities, the environment, and we also run some quite cool education projects as well. Now, the more cynical among you will be thinking, he's just shown us pictures of his little kids and his dog because he wants to win us over. Well, the psychologists, of course, among you will be saying he's using priming techniques. In other words, trying to change subsequent behaviour by giving you visual or other sensory clues. So, like, if you go for an interview, if somebody gives you a warm drink rather than a cold drink, you want to work for that company more. Do you know that? Or if you give people lots of words made like things that are to do with fitness, health, and lean and things like that, and then you send that group of people off to a building, they will statistically, more of them will take the stairs than go in the lift. Now, the reason for this is, yeah, we've got two different brain systems. We've got a limbic system and we've got a cognitive system. And we like to think that when it comes to policy issues and really important things in the world, that we will rely more on our cognitive side. The truth of the matter is that, of course, we are very, very deeply emotional and instinctive creatures, and we rely heavily on our limbic system. And of course we've got much better at understanding the way that the brain works, and policymakers have become very interested in this. This has become popularised over recent years in this book Nudge by Richard Thaler and Cass Sunstein. And of course politicians have become very interested. The Obama administration became very interested in it, and also in the UK, our Cabinet Office has set up a behavioural insight unit specifically to look at how it can shape social behaviours. So why is this so interesting right now? Well, I think probably 2 reasons. I mean, this is a picture from the recent Jasmine revolution, and I think what it speaks to is that, generally speaking, people want more self-determination in their lives. They don't want to be told what to do. But also, there are 7 billion of us on the planet, and that's not just 7 billion mouths to feed, it's 7 billion healthcare problems, it's 7 billion perpetrators or victims of crime. And of course, you know, particularly at a time of an economic downturn, if you can find a way to nudge social behaviour, then of course that's not such a big cost on the national purse. And so, you know, maybe if you can get people to eat a bit more healthily, then you've got less cases of diabetes. Or if you can get people to drink less or abuse alcohol less, put it that way, then maybe you'll get less incidences of domestic crime and violence. and less cases of cirrhosis of the liver. So these are the sort of questions that a lot of these policymakers are asking, and we thought, what would happen if you really integrated design at the heart of that whole exercise? Now, of course, as we've been hearing already from our presenters, that doesn't come as any great mystery to designers. I mean, 90 million people moved off brick phones onto iPhones, and it wasn't a cognitive decision. It was a deeply instinctive one. And of course, the design team were tapping into a really brilliant behavioural insights. So we're doing this all the time in our commercial lives. So we thought, well, where do we start? And we had a fantastic opportunity to work with the Department of Health in the UK, looking at this particular issue, which is infection control, and particularly healthcare-acquired infections. Now, this is where you go into a hospital with one problem, and unfortunately, you catch some nasty superbug, yeah? Like, in America, they call it MRSA, MRSA, or C. difficile. The statistics, and these are the latest ones, are pretty horrific, as you can see. And unfortunately, in the developing world, although they don't have all of the accurate statistics, they're pretty sure that they are more than double they are in the developed world. So this is a very, very high human cost and a very, very high financial cost to all nations around the world. So we're looking for new ideas. So we set up a project with policymakers called Design Bugs Out. And what we did was, of course, we gathered all of the research and we had all of the experts in a room, but what we said was, let's go out and look with fresh eyes, through design eyes. And we sent designers out to work in the field with nurses and porterage staff, and patients, and they came back with images and films, and the most fundamental issue that they came back with was hospitals are hard to clean. That why do we not make them easy to clean, easy to keep clean, and also provide the visual clues that actually might make you want to keep them clean as well, rather than seeing it as a big obstacle. Now, lots of design briefs came out of this, and then we were able to encourage manufacturers and designers in. Let me just give you a couple of quick examples. So, for instance, why does a hospital bedside cabinet need to look like some piece of 1970s kitchen furniture with, MDF construction, bits of plastic stuck on, where quite clearly all the dirt is going to stay there, and you'll get lots of bugs which can get passed on to vulnerable patients? Why not create a product made of one single molded plastic, also made of latest materials that static doesn't cling to? It seems so obvious now, and that's why we brought designers at Kinergy 4 together with a leading British manufacturer to do that. Or here, we worked with the Royal College of Art Helen Hamlin Research Centre, and it was the insights from nurses that said that when a mattress gets punctured, if human waste goes in, it just has to be damaged slightly, that's when C. difficile gets passed on, and actually that can be deadly for somebody who's sleeping in that bed. So why not put just a thin layer of hydrochromic ink under the first layer, so that when anything goes into the mattress, it immediately lights up. It's a visual clue, it's a prime that tells people, get rid of the mattress. So these were some of the ideas. You'll hear a few more from Luke Pearson. Now, as I said, these are experiments, so it's quite early on to see what the wider impact of this is, but we already can see the results coming through. From our healthcare projects, what we now know is we've been able to give a boost to those manufacturers and innovators. They've sold over £25 million worth of those new products and ideas. Now that's good. But we've also been able to actually monitor the behaviours through time and motion studies. And we've been able to see that actually it takes nurses less time. We can often put a fifth of the time back into the system. So it's what the Department of Health are calling quality, innovation, prevention, and productivity, QIP. So it's giving them what they want. But for the policymakers, This is where I find it quite interesting, that you get not just the win-win, it's a lifesaver, and it's also savings, so that is what you might call the nudge bit. But actually what we've been able to do is we've been able to give it the shove as well, that we've been able to open up the market, and now it's revenues for designers and for other entrepreneurs. Let's just take a look at one other issue. It's the issue of alcohol abuse. It's a startling statistic, this, and these are the latest numbers from the World Health Organization. 4% of all deaths worldwide are attributed to alcohol. Now that is actually a bigger number than are associated even with HIV/AIDS. And 12% of all of those alcohol-related deaths come from intentional injury. So that's usually violence and aggression. It may be domestic violence, or it's often when people get hit or hurt by the shards of glass breaking. And this is one of the most common injuries. Now, we set up a program called Design Out Crime, which you saw the logo from Michael Wolff, with our Minister for our Home Affairs. And again, we sent our design research teams out into the front line. This is Blake Golding. And Blake was working as a doorman at a pub. He got a glass in the face, lost 4 pints of blood, 50 stitches. He was lucky that they managed to save his eye. But of course, that's one human story. He's also a statistic now. He's one of 87,000 people like him every year just in the UK, costing the taxpayer £2.7 billion. So this is a really, really big issue. So is there anything that we can do? Well, we realised that it might be very difficult to nudge the social behaviour, and it's something that I would love to work on. But maybe we could do something about the symptoms. And we entered into a really interesting conversation with the police. And the police were saying, let's legislate. This is easy. Tell the pubs, particularly those where there are hotspots, to use plastic glasses. But of course you've got lots of people, this comes back to that self-determination thing, lots of people saying, no, we don't want that. So we said, let's try and innovate. So we put it out there to designers, and it was designers at Design Bridge who came up with unique IP, and this is basically it. The whole idea, very simple, was to spray a bioresin on the inside of glassware. Now, it's the same principle as with windscreens, but just a different technology. But the idea is that if the glass breaks, you don't get those lethal shards, so you don't get such bad cutting. Now, again, it's early days to see the full wider impact, but already we've got proxies of success. The two biggest glassware manufacturers in the world have now gone into full trials. They're manufacturing these, and indeed they're in pilots in our biggest pub retail chain in the UK at the moment. So this, for us, is now one of a number of what we're seeing as open innovation projects, which are all about creating these social nudges, but also opening up opportunity for commercial shoves, whether that's in the area of patient dignity or crime or communities. And we're seeing that there's not just there's a common language, and there are a number of common ingredients too. So I'm just going to finish on what we see as the 5 key ingredients of a shove. The first is putting design up front. It's using design to ask the question, to do that whole first piece of discovery and definition. Too often, particularly at a policy level, when designers get brought in, often like with clients as well, they get brought in the middle to, here's the brief, and you go off and develop some thoughts and ideas. We're saying bring designers in to help do the whole discovery process. The second is stay open. And we believe that the whole, and we run these completely as open innovation programs, and it's so important to have all of the stakeholders, whether that's police or the leading medical people or scientists, experts, other stakeholder groups and so forth. Everybody has to be on board from the beginning. The third is provide a safe space for the innovation. You need a broker. In this case, we've done that brokerage exercise, providing we're the intermediary that just provides for a time-limited period an opportunity for lots of conflicting forces to work together in a safe environment. Fourthly, hug a politician. The client is very important. And when you're designing policy, your client is the politician. Fifthly, no compromises. This is a picture of the Hollywood fashion designer Ben DeLisi, who on our project on dignity designed a new patient gown. But the point was that he brought all of that sense of quality and craftsmanship and care to the project, and that's so important. So we believe that it's really important to use great designers and provide the opportunity for designers to do their job. So that's it really. We think that we could apply this sort of methodology. I'd like to think there'd be really interesting opportunities, not only in South Africa, all around the world, to use design to nudge the social behaviour, but opening up the opportunity simultaneously for a more of an economic boost or shove. But talking about quality of design, it gives me great pleasure as I walk off to introduce one of Britain's great designers, Luke Pearson of Pearson Lloyd. Thank you very much.